Well, I think they're businessmen at the end of the day, and executives that are trying to make the right choices so that they're going to be successful, somewhat along the same line of what I was just saying. And so in this market, which is a market that's frankly weak and has been for 2 or 3 quarters, probably will be for another few more quarters. No one really knows exactly how long the softness in the market will extend itself. And if they're doing what I think they are doing, and I've had a lot of discussions with many of the executives, they're basically saying, I'm building out a great service capability, have been doing so, whether it's called managed services or servicing my account base, and so I feel very comfortable that I've built out a different kind of capability over the last 2-3 years. It's serving me really well right now. So again, I just had a chat, having a coffee downstairs, a perfect example. The principal owning the company made it very clear that 75% of his business at the beginning of every month is billed, and he's covering most of his cost. And so any major project work or new requirements that are coming out from his existing customer base is gravy, and it's that's where he's building out the capabilities of his own company. So in this environment, I think that's what they're all trying to do, and I think most of them are very successful at it right now. Most of the VARs that are here are telling me that they feel pretty good about where they're at in light of the market environment. Sure, they'd like to see it better, but they've built out good practices and good businesses with a strong customer base, and because they're healthy, they're capable to ride the storm very easily at this stage. It's different than 2001, 2002, in my opinion. I think we had a run there, and that was a big downdraft in the IT sector, and that was more IT specific. This time around, most of the partners are more mature. A lot of them have gone through the downdraft 6-7 years ago, and they know that they've had to build out a different kind of a business approach, and one that's got more of a solid foundation around service, around ownership of the accounts, and they've become the trusted IT, IS departments for their client base. So they feel a lot more comfortable today than they did 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, when everything kind of went pear-shaped as well. So it's a good group of people, a very good group of clients. We're seeing a lot less credit challenges or credit issues. I think a lot of questions have come up about that over the last few months. We're saying no, our customer base is very healthy, which again is good for us. I wish the market was healthier overall, but the customer base itself is very healthy. Well, there'll be some degree, I think, of consolidation. Anytime you have a downdraft like we're having right now, I think some of the stronger or larger or well-managed companies that have got strong balance sheets or decent cash positions will say, this is an opportunity to maybe tie myself up with a couple other companies, or buy some capabilities in some other locations as my end clients are asking me to, or as my client base is getting bigger and stronger. So I think there's going to be some degree of that going on, and that's not been an unusual pattern. In fact, I'm going to be talking about that in a few minutes' time when I address the larger audience this morning. I think the vendors are also going to be making probably choices to align themselves up with some types of partners more closely than they have in the past, in part because of the financial situation. And I think that's going to play into the hands of Ingram Micro. I think it's going to be favorable towards us. We're working hard so that it is. So that type of a landscape changes. Other than that, I think people are saying, hey, we're in a recession. We've lived through recessions before. People that have had at least 5 to maybe 35 years of work experience have seen some degree of problems in the past. And they're saying, these things are cyclic. I just want to be better positioned for when it does turn, so that I have a better chance of growing and employing people, and obviously throwing off a bit more profit in a healthier marketplace. And I think that's where people are trying to get their companies at this stage, and I think that's where they're going to be, a year to 2 years out from now.
If there's a distinction between the two markets right now, I'd say that what's happening in the U.S. from an economic standpoint is probably a little lessened in Canada right now between the two sides. So I'd say the mood from the Canadian side, very similar, as Greg was saying, is I think that the economic indicators are all there, that there are bad things happening in the marketplace. But when you talk to these individual resellers, they seem to be pretty healthy and strong already based on their business models. So there's a bit of a disconnect between what we're seeing in the newspapers and what you're seeing when you're talking to solution providers and vendors down here. You know, I think in the last while, the volatility of the currency has really driven a lot of requests around this. So, you know, we have added in some capabilities. For instance, when somebody's dealing with a U.S. dollar vendor that we can only quote in U.S. dollars, we can bill the customer in U.S. dollars as well, so that it all lines up. The reason that wasn't an issue before is that the currency was always strengthening. So, you know, had they hedged at the time, they would have made less money as the currency was going up. So we saw very little interest in that. It's a program we've always had, but we saw very little interest on that as the currency was strengthening. After it fell, I think it's the stability that we've seen lately that's a lot easier for resellers to manage. But we do get, that's the most common request we're getting right now, which really addresses an issue that was more in September than it is now. But if you have to make a 6-month or a 12-month quote on a U.S. dollar product, you know, we can help out by billing in U.S. dollars as long as we get the commitment from the reseller that they're going to stick with us through that transaction. So that's been the most common one, I think, that's helped our customers. Something really timely for us right now is the Ontario e-waste program, which is launching, which launched yesterday. And you know, I think that when you look at the value of distribution, and sometimes you say it's not just one thing, it's a lot of things. With that, you know, we've got a lawyer who's on site, one of an Ingram Micro employee who's worked with the Ontario e-waste program, trying to make it easier as it's come up to launch. And that's been a real help for us with our customers, because we've been able to give them updates. Here's what's coming. You know, we've I'd say yesterday I would have had a significant percentage of our calls. We've been discussing this with, you know, from our sales reps to resellers, and a lot of the resellers are starting with, you know, very little knowledge of this. So we're actually educating them on that program. Right, and that's one of the values that's really, you know, intrinsic with Ingram. It would be hard to pin down later on, but as an advisor on this to a certain extent, here's, you know, our program. Here are the documents. We send a link over to them so that they can sign up and get compliant right away. So it's a value we're adding today. But that's probably uppermost if you talk about, you know, today what's going on back at the sales floor. You know what, I'd say that the big players would probably be the least affected right now. I mean, the currency had some impact, I think, on areas of our business that we would call niche, right? So if I look at our components division, for instance, a lot of those transactions are in U.S. dollars. So I think if that was a significant percentage of a distributor, that would probably be more impactful to them than it was to us and some of our larger competitors.